Hey guys, and welcome to a video on hacking in Black Desert. So recently, the subreddit and forums have been in an uproar over hackers, specifically speed hackers in Histria. So speed hackers have hacks that allow them to go super fast and spam skills several dozen times a second so that they can kill monsters instantly and make huge amounts of silver per hour. We're talking over 300 million silver per hour using a fairly simple hack. So this is a pretty big problem for Black Desert, and the reason is beyond just, oh, if a speed hacker finds you in your rotation, they can one-shot you and you can't do anything to fight them. Hackers are a big problem to MMOs beyond just the immediate impact they have if a hacker fights a normal player. And that's because hackers do two things. They delegitimize and they devalue the efforts and accomplishments of normal players, both hardcore and casual. So they do this by causing massive price inflation, especially in Black Desert. Now, this mainly affects preorders and a couple super in-demand normal items, but it's a huge problem. Due to Black Desert's fixed market, the game is not equipped to deal with inflation. In the normal world, inflation affects all prices in a country. Everyone is affected equally, and the government has several options to combat inflation. This is usually done through reducing the money supply in some way, but that is not really a feasible option in Black Desert, as the money supply is not finite. It's practically infinite as long as you can keep grinding and keep selling items to vendors through trade and other means of making silver in Black Desert. So in BDO, hackers are the only ones with massive amounts of cash, but due to the fixed market system, that silver does not get distributed to the rest of the community through the purchase of goods or services. In a game such as World of Warcraft, if someone gets a hold of thousands and thousands of gold, then they can distribute that money back into the player economy, either through purchasing items from other players on the auction house or via player trade, purchasing services from other players such as dungeon runs or as personal herb farmers, among other things. Or they can buy super powerful items and gear that are normally far the price range of the average player. And through this way, they get items, but their gold and silver is distributed back into the economy. In Black Desert, how pre-orders work is most of the money disappears into thin air. If you have an item worth 100 million silver and it gets pre-ordered for 200 million silver, you will make 120 million silver as you make 20% of the difference between the base price and the pre-order price. So 100 million, 20% is 20 million. But this also has a cap as well. If the pre-order price exceeds 600 million silver, so 20% of that would be 100 million, as 600 minus the base 100 is 500 million, then no more silver will be added to the price that the seller gets. They will only at most make 2 times the base price of the item, so 200 million silver. So most of the pre-order money that hackers use disappears into thin air and is not redistributed back into the economy and into the hands of other players who could then use that money to buy their own items and drive up prices naturally. Pre-order prices are mainly focused on certain high-end items such as yellow accessories and boss gear that all players want and normally is an achievable price because they have a fixed market system. However, with hackers and giant pre-orders, other players cannot afford to compete, and the pre-order price doesn't get sent back to the player who sold the item, so they can't then turn around and put their own massive pre-order price on a new item and distribute the money back to the economy. So normally inflation would allow everyone to earn more silver in that sort of method as items increase in price to match the new value of silver. If an item was worth 100 silver, and then 100 silver started to become worth 200 silver under the new system, so silver was now worth half what it used to be worth, then that item would now be worth 200 silver as the value of silver is decreased, but the item's value stayed the same. But in Black Desert, because of fixed prices for most items that are in high demand, these items are already at their maximum price. They cannot rise any further. So the way that people compete with the price is through pre-order price. And because most of the pre-order price disappears, hackers are the only ones benefiting from this it's kind of like inflation, but it's not really inflation because the prices of items aren't going up. it's just pre-order prices of certain items that hackers want. This means that hackers are able to enjoy both the benefits of a massively increased pool of silver and a lack of competition for high pre-orders due to the fixed marketplace and the disappearing pre-order prices for silver. So what this does is it delegitimizes the accomplishments and efforts of both casual and hardcore players. It also devalues their efforts, because a casual and a hardcore player, both of them earn sort of a fixed amount of silver per day. If your average hardcore player plays for 10 hours a day, he grinds in only the best spots in Kama Sylvia or high-end grinding spots, such as History Temple itself, and can make about 30 million silver per hour grinding, and then makes another 40 to 50 million silver from random workaround bar stuff and AFK funds, then they might make about 300 million silver a day. A casual player probably only grinds for an hour, maybe only makes 10 to 15 million silver, and probably just life skills the rest of that time, but with a less efficient workaround bar, so they probably make about 50 million a day. So both these players, they don't really have any way to earn more money to compete with a hacker. A hacker earns in an hour what a hardcore player, in this example, earns in a day. And they'll earn in an hour what a casual player will earn in about a week, as the casual player only makes about 50 million a day, which is 350 million a week. So the casual and the hardcore player, they both have to work very, very hard if they want to earn items. And this was true before. A casual player that wanted to have their own dandelion, their own Zarka, would have to spend a couple days saving up the money to first buy one. Then they'd have to spend another week or two saving the money to start enhancing it. If they got unlucky, they'd have to save even more money, or they'd save up for maybe a month to have a pre-order high enough to buy one that's already enhanced. It takes them a long time to earn a single item at a decent enhancement level. A hardcore player can earn them much more quickly, but this is because the hardcore player is spending much more time and effort to earn these items. So in Black Desert, effort is rewarded. In fact, effort is rewarded much more highly than in most other Western games, as power directly correlates to gear, which directly correlates to the amount of silver you've earned and kind of how lucky you've been with enhancing. So there's RNG as well. But a high-level player that has put in a lot of time and effort to earning tons of silver, enhancing all their gear, grinding skill points, getting to level 61, 62 for the Kapochi items, they get to show off all this effort and hard work by stomping people in node wars, flexing on people in 1v1s. They get to show off their power, and they've earned that right because they put in the time and effort in the first place to earn these items. Hackers kind of turn that situation on its head, because when hackers exist, all of a sudden there becomes a question. Did this player earn these items and this power level legitimately? Or did they hack and earn it in a couple of hours or a couple of days? And even if most players are legitimate, most hardcore players that have full soft cap or above have spent thousands of hours playing, hundreds of hours grinding, even if that's all legitimate, it only takes a few rotten apples to spoil the bunch. A few hackers means that all of a sudden players everywhere are doubted. And that is a really big problem, because you don't want to all of a sudden have the legitimacy of your account called into doubt. Even if you know 100% it's not certain, there's no way the other people can know it, and once rumors start to spread, it's very difficult to quell them. So it's not really a big problem for rumors or anything, but it definitely devalues the game as a whole and delegitimizes putting effort into the game. When you're talking about your favorite game players or other potential players, so you're talking up with your friends, and you're talking about the negatives, you don't want to have to say, yeah, Black Desert's a great game, it's got amazing graphics, but it's going to take a little while to get geared up. Oh, and also there's a problem with hackers. That's not really one of the things you want your game to be known for. So hackers delegitimize the player base's efforts and accomplishments. The other thing it does is it devalues these efforts as well, because there's no way for hardcore players or casual players to make extra silver. Beyond simply grinding more, and hardcore players already practically grind as a second job. They usually grind for hours each day. Beyond simply spending more and more time grinding, which a lot of people don't have that time. A lot of people, they work other jobs, they have social obligations, they've got other things they want to do with their lives. They don't want to spend hours and hours grinding each day. And as pre-order prices rise, as the value of your silver falls, each hour you spend grinding becomes worth less. Now, obviously, there's other reasons to grind: experience, skill points, you name it, there's other reasons. But silver is one of the biggest advantages that you can gain while grinding. There's a reason that when people talk about grind spots, they usually also talk about silver per hour. Experience and silver per hour are the two biggest sort of motivators to go out and grind. And as silver is devalued, as the pre-order prices inflate, every hour you spend grinding starts to become worth less. If every hour you spent while grinding compared to an average grinding hour with 30 million silver for hardcore players, and every hour you spent grinding was only 15 as a casual player, then you're spending about twice as much time for the same result. But that's not terrible because you're a casual player, you're mostly going to fight other casual players, and it's sort of a different world where hardcore players reside in. However, when the average hour is 300 million silver per hour for a hacker, then even a hardcore player is only earning the same as a hacker over 10 hours of gameplay. For a casual player, it's 20 hours of gameplay. That is absolutely insane. You cannot ask people to play 10 times more just to make the same amount of money to participate in pre-order prices with hackers. And that is a pretty big problem. You don't want to devalue the efforts of players, because once you devalue efforts enough, players stop wanting to play. If you make grinding not worth it for silver, if you only earn 10 million silver per hour, but the average pre-order price is 150 million silver, that is 15 hours of grinding. And if that's just a base item, totally unupgraded, you still need to buy memory fragments and all these other items that are also all sold out, then the will to grind, the will to log in and play the game starts to lessen. And this is a sort of phenomenon that is kind of prevalent in a lot of games. As developers start to make the game harder, add in more RNG to gaining gear, a good example would be Bless Online recently. There's been a lot of controversy over drop rates and the drop rates of armor pieces with specific runes on them, and the calculations where they will take thousands and thousands of runs to get a full set of gear with those correct runes. Players started to feel that it wasn't worth it to run the dungeons because there was no way they were going to be able to get a full set of gear, even if they practically devoted their time to the game as a second job. And as such, players started to quit even more. So devaluing the efforts of your player base is not a good thing, and this is what hackers kind of do. Hackers devalue the efforts of your player base without the publisher or developer even needing to lift a finger and change things themselves. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. Pre-order prices are rising, but that's not just because of hackers. Pre-order prices are rising because Pearl Abyss and Cacao have slowly been adding more and more ways to earn silver to the game, and the average level of the player base and the average power level has risen. As the average power level rises, harder grind spots become the norm, and higher levels of silver per hour also become the norm. And then they've added stuff such as the Reigning Enhancements event, which became a permanent thing, which has probably added between like 3 and 5 million extra silver per hour just to my random rotation at Wandering Rogues, because as you get items that can give you 10 to 15 Blackstones from disenchanting a single item, that's millions of silver right there. So the average level of silver per player is rising, but the fixed marketplace is kind of masking it because the value of items has not changed. It's only the pre-order price that we can really check. So hackers, yes, they exist. Yes, they're a big problem. They might not be as big a problem as Reddit and the forums make out, but they certainly are a huge problem if left unchecked. Pearl Abyss and Cacao need to address this problem now. 738 is a lot of hackers. That is not a number of hackers you want to be banning, because usually you don't want there to be 738 hackers in your game, especially prolific speed hackers. Now, we don't know if all of these hackers are history of speed hackers. They could have just been fish botters, but they need to continue taking actions like this. They need to continue to take actions against the hackers, and they cannot stop this war. If they stop this war and just allow hackers to run around unimpeded, the game won't die, but it will certainly be in a much worse position than before. Like I said before, you do not want to have to try and get your friends into the game and have one of the negatives be, oh yeah, it's also infested by hackers. Anyways, guys, I hope this video was kind of informative on why hackers are such a problem. It's not just that they can run in and one-shot you. It's also that they are cleaning out the marketplace of high-level items such as crescent rings, basilisk belts, Tungrad earrings. They are massively inflating the pre-order prices of the biggest and best items such as dandelions. And just all in all, they are not healthy for the future of the game. So, hope this video was helpful to you. As always, subscribe if you liked it. Comment below if you think that hackers are a huge problem, or if you think that hackers are kind of being blown out of proportion and they are not such a big problem to the game as it is. Anyways, thanks for watching, and have a good one.